Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a little bit later. We start each one of our sessions with meditation. So I'll guide you guys in a meditation session first, and then I'll help you guys afterwards to learn the teachings of the Buddha on the path to enlightenment. This individual who we refer to as the Buddha figured out over 2,500 years ago how to be able to get to a point where your mind is experiencing enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but one of the first things you learn in the teachings of the Buddha is how it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and this is why you can actually eliminate them. So meditation is an important part of that, but there's other things besides meditation that you would need in order to be able to move to enlightenment. So that's why after our meditation, I'll share some teachings with you guys to help you understand more of what the Buddha actually taught. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting in order to be able to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you guys would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. It will help you as you're easing into meditation. I have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself. Get a chanting sheet and you can chant along if you'd like. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So he used it as a learning tool, as a learning device, where today we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So when you're chanting, it's not a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with his teachings, those aren't his teachings. Those are misunderstandings of his teachings. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. Everything is about training your mind. So that's how we use these chants today as a way to help prepare the mind to be able to ease into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you end up getting one of these chanting sheets and you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because he wouldn't have walked around and said, "Here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me." This would be ego or arrogance if someone did this, putting themselves above others. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that in your mind. You don't look at yourself as being above others. You don't look down on people. Instead, you just look at everybody as being equal. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. So you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing some guidance where I'll essentially be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're just all meditating. Everybody here at the temple and anybody who's joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated or irritated or some other discontent feeling. This is the cause of discontentedness. Is in the unenlightened state, the mind craves permanence. But yet you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. So if you're in meditation with a craving for permanence and you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. But if you understand that the world is impermanent and things are constantly changing, when you hear that sound, you'll know that that's normal, because things will arise, They will change and they will fade away. This is the impermanent nature of the world. So there'll be sounds, I'm sure, during the meditation. Then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand what is the Pali Canon and English study group and helping you to be able to learn some of the teachings of the Buddha. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using the different tools that you need at different times in order to be able to help you in your journey. But there's not just one way to actually be able to sit or stand or any of these other positions. So what I'm going to do here is give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position, just to kind of help you get started with meditation if you haven't been learning meditation before. And you can use something that I'm sharing with you here if you like, or you can come up with something on your own and actually use your own things, because there isn't just one fixed way to actually sit. There's many different options and things that you could use. So you could use what I'm sharing with you just as maybe recommendations or suggestions. So you could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do this lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true if you're in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. In terms of your upper body, this is helpful if it's erect. If your sternum's up and your shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, your mind might be dull or lethargic. But if you are real rigid, your mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get started with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll come back in with some guidance afterwards. Samma sammuto mahakewa Bhutang mahakewanhang apivateyami Sawakato mahakewata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakewato Sawakasangho Sanghang namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakwa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. As I was sharing at the beginning of class, the individual who we refer to as the Buddha figured out how to get to enlightenment. Enlightenment is a mental state that you attain in this life. You can also attain it at death as well, where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. All those discontent feelings that I mentioned, like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, you won't experience any of those when you get to the enlightened mental state. You'll notice that your mind has focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. The Buddha figured out that there's these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind. And when you understand what those are and you apply the tools and the techniques to uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind, your mind will perform optimally. Where when you're in the unenlightened state, you'll lack focus, concentration, clarity, and memory. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's performing optimally, and you'll see that you have those qualities. By the time you get to enlightenment, your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They're at ease, because in the unenlightened state, you have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility in the mind. And when you're putting that out in your relationships, it's all coming back to you. Oftentimes people think that it's other people who are causing you to be angry and frustrated, but it's actually your own mind that's doing that. So when you're bitter and harsh and hostile to people, you're just damaging your relationships. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not doing that any longer. You can be loving and kind and warm and gentle with everybody around you. And you'll see that because of that, that's what you'll experience coming back to you. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even be able to experience a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. So this is coming through training of the mind. And there's various opportunities for you guys to learn how to train your mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. Here at this temple, we have introductory courses, we have foundational courses, and we even have courses that go beyond those kinds of things. In fact, this afternoon at 1 p.m., I'm going to be sharing a 3-hour course. It's called Introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha. It's a great place to get started, where you're going to learn about what the teachings of the Buddha are and what they are not. And then I'm going to be sharing his very first teaching. It's called the Four Noble Truths. In 4 simple statements, you can understand what is the problem that the Buddha discovered in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is they're independently verifiable. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, growing, and developing in this life in order to be able to create this change and this transformation within your life through doing this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. So you're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not about rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. It's about learning, growing, and developing. So these 4 simple statements and this very first teaching of the Four Noble Truths, when I share that, you can independently verify that this is actually true. The Buddha helps you to be able to see what's causing your anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll walk around thinking that it's other people who are causing you to experience these feelings. And because of that, you'll just keep experiencing them over and over and over again, because you're never actually implementing a solution to actually fix it. Instead, you'll be pushing people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, or you'll put expectations on people and try to pressure them into doing things your way. But the Buddha taught this better way of life, of how to train your mind to get to this peace and this serenity, this contentedness and joy that the mind can experience. So the various programs that we have here, like I mentioned, we have introductory programs, we have foundational programs, we have programs that go beyond that, where there's classes, courses, and retreats, and everything's available for you at no cost. There's never a time where you need to do anything or pay anything. There's no expectation of you. Instead, it's just to help you to be able to learn and grow and develop on the path. So we have this book series of 13 books that I share, and on Sundays and Wednesdays, I have what's called the group learning program, where I go through this book slowly but surely each Sunday. I go chapter by chapter, helping students to be able to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. Tomorrow, we're in chapter 22, which is titled Mental Illness, a Modern Day Delusion. This is helping you to be able to see where things like ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anorexia, bulimia, all these kinds of things that people think are a medical disorder can actually be solved by training the mind. You can actually eliminate the symptoms that are actually producing those kinds of things. So if you've been told you have those kinds of things, you can actually eliminate it through training of the mind. I'm going to help you guys to be able to see this tomorrow as part of our group learning program. That's a really great place for people to start. We're in chapter 22, but you could easily start that program at any point. We're going to be restarting that program on August 9th, because we restart it every 7 months. We go through it in this entire book in a 7-month period. And then when we get to the end, we just restart it again from the very beginning. So you guys will see I do that on Sunday. And then all next week, we have what's called the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course, where Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., I'm going to be helping students to be able to understand all the foundational teachings to really get on the path to enlightenment. And you can find all these details and others on our bulletin board over there and on our website as well. On Saturdays, what we do is called the Pali Canon and English Study Group. What the Pali Canon is this is the largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha that exist. There's 45 volumes of books that are this thick, and it's in the Pali language. That's why we call it the Pali Canon. This is no longer a spoken language today, but that's what they've actually captured the teachings of the Buddha is in this Pali text. And it's called the Pali Canon. And it's the largest, most complete collection we have of his teachings. If you're interested in getting to this enlightened mental state, you would need to be able to understand what it is that the Buddha taught. Because in the world, there's about 500 million people who consider themselves to be Buddhist, but there's a very, 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 very small percentage of those people who are actually studying the original teachings of the Buddha. This is why we have so many misunderstandings in the world about his teachings. But what we do here is we base everything that we teach on the original words of the Buddha. So you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. So while in all those other programs, I teach in a more traditional way where I teach for like 15, 20, 30 minutes. I open up for questions. I teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes. I open up for questions. In this program, we do it a bit different. What I do is we actually explore the original words of the Buddha. And today we actually happen to be starting this new book as part of our book series. This is volume 6 of our book series. It's titled The Natural Law of Kamma. And the way that we do this program is a bit different than we do the other programs. I actually invite students here at the temple, or those of you guys that are in Zoom, to be able to read one of the chapters. The chapters are actually quite short. You'll be able to see that there's sometimes just a paragraph or two, or maybe a page and a half, or something like that. And somebody will volunteer to read. And then after somebody reads, I will share some teachings on that to help you guys to understand how to integrate this into your life and get benefit from what it is that the Buddha is teaching you. Then I'll open up to whatever questions you have, whether you're here at the temple or you're online. You can ask any questions that you like. So if you're here at the temple and you'd like to volunteer to read, or if you'd like to ask a question, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room, and there's some up here as well. All you need to do is get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and you can hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. So it's best if you use a microphone. And then you can keep these with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And anybody who's online, if you guys have questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand in order to be able to ask any questions or volunteer to read. So this book that we're actually starting today, it's called The Natural Law of Kamma. Everything and anything that the Buddha taught in one way or another is coming back to this. So while we have a certain book that is dedicated to the natural law of Kamma, you can see all the teachings of the Buddha is actually based on the natural law of Kamma. Some people call it karma. You might have heard that word before. That's just a different language. That the word karma is from the Sanskrit language. The word Kamma is from the Pali language. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people who study his teachings in his original words will tend to use the word Kamma. What this is it's a natural law that is affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. When we talk about getting to enlightenment or awakening, some people call it that, where you're awakening or you are awake when you're enlightened. What that means is to cultivate wisdom. This is the reason why the mind is in the unenlightened state, is that it lacks wisdom. And because it lacks this wisdom, it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. So what you're doing is you're slowly but surely gaining wisdom of this natural law. There's nothing mystical or magical here. It's not about belief or anything like that. It's not about punishments or rewards. What this natural law of Kamma is cause and effect, or action and results. It's the results of your decisions. That whenever you make a certain choice or a certain decision, it will either produce wholesome Kamma or wholesome results, or it will produce unwholesome Kamma or unwholesome results, based on whether your decision is wise or unwise. This is a natural law that is affecting every single one of us, whether we're aware of this or not. Just like the natural law of gravity affects all of us, and whether we are aware of that natural law or not, it was still affecting us. And when we lacked wisdom of this natural law, we tended to struggle and have difficulties in the world. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we cried and cried and cried because we broke our toys, and we really struggled with this natural law of gravity. But over time, you might say that we awoke to the natural law of gravity, meaning we cultivated wisdom of this natural law. And because we understand this natural law now, we make better decisions. And because we make better decisions, we now experience improved results. We experience wholesome results. Where when we lacked wisdom of this natural law, we didn't understand the world that we lived in. So we struggled and we had difficulties and we cried and we really were upset, because when we kept falling down on the ground as little kids, we didn't understand. But slowly but surely, we gained this wisdom that we understood. And now we tie our shoes a bit tighter. We look at the surface of the sidewalk as we're walking. We stop being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. And now we can climb ladders. We can get on bicycles. We can fly on airplanes all over the world, because we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. So what the Buddha is helping you to do on this path to enlightenment is to awaken to the natural law of Kamma, so that you can understand the causes and conditions that produce wholesome results or wholesome Kamma, and you can also understand the unwise decisions that are producing unwholesome Kamma or unwholesome results. Because now you can be empowered to make wiser and wiser decisions about how you conduct yourself in the world, and you will experience more and more wholesome results. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll be angry, you'll be sad, you'll be frustrated, you'll have stress and anxiety and all these other feelings. This is your mind struggling and having difficulties to live in a world that you don't understand. But when you awaken to this natural law and you understand how this world works, now your mind can be at ease and you can be completely peaceful and joyful. What people oftentimes think is when you're experiencing unwholesome results in your day-to-day life, that it's coming from other people. Or you might think that it's good luck or bad luck. Or you might think it's destiny or fate. Or some people think that it's God or some entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience. If you keep thinking this way, you'll actually never get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, because that's actually not true. It's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in your day-to-day life. It's not good luck or bad luck. It's not destiny or fate or God or some entity called the universe, and it's not other people. These things aren't true. They actually is physically not true. You can see that for yourself, that it's your own decisions that lead to any particular result that you experience. If you have difficulty seeing this, ask yourself these questions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose whether or not you ate breakfast this morning? Who chose where you live? Who chose the friends that you spend time with? Who chose the job or occupation that you have? We could go on and on and on here. You can see that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience. This isn't about guilt and shame. It's not about fault or blame or anything like that. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's just about seeing what is true reality about how this world works, because you can actually be empowered to make different decisions. Because if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for, that you would rather not occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if it's good luck or bad luck, you can't change that. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck, by the way, but you can't change that, right? And there's no such thing as destiny or fate, and you can't change that. And there's not this being of God or some entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience. Because again, you can't change that. And it's not other people that are controlling what you experience. It's your decisions that are determining what you experience, because you can't change other people. So for example, if I was walking down the beach and I was having wind blow in my face and I was kicking up sand, and this wind is blowing the sand back in my face, and I'm like, this is good luck or bad luck, or this is destiny or fate, or this is God or some entity called the universe that is causing this, or this is other people that are causing this. Well, I'm just going to continue to walk down the beach and kick up sand, and I'm going to keep experiencing the sand blowing back in my face. But if I understand that what I experience is a result of my decisions, then if there's anything in life that I would rather not occur, all I need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and I'll experience different results. I can choose to stop kicking up sand, and now I won't experience that coming back to me, right? So that's what the power is in understanding the natural law of Kamma, is that you can be empowered to cultivate wisdom, to make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. Otherwise, the unwholesome things that you experience in life will just keep repeating over and over and over, because you're never cultivating wisdom and making improved decisions. So this first chapter here in our book that we're going to study, it's called 6 Aspects of Kamma to be Understood. These are the original words of the Buddha, where he's going to help you to be able to see 6 aspects of this natural law. And this is very important for you because it's helping you to awaken to the wisdom of this natural law. where you don't believe in this natural law. You need to be able to see it for yourself, and you can see the truth that what you experience in day-to-day life is based on decisions that you make. And the Buddha is going to help you over the course of all of his teachings to be able to see what are the wise decisions that lead to wholesome Kamma, and what are the unwise decisions that lead to unwholesome Kamma. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you're only experiencing wholesome Kamma. There is no unwholesome Kamma by the time you get to enlightenment. You'll only be experiencing wholesome things in your day-to-day life. Now, that's not to say that you won't break something or that you wouldn't experience sickness or something like this, because you're still going to experience change. There's still impermanence in the world. So you're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. These are things that you can still experience. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's completely peaceful, even though you're experiencing these kinds of things. So again, the way we do this is I invite people here at the temple or online through Zoom to be able to read this. If there's someone who would like to read this, let me know. You can just raise your hand here, get a microphone, or anybody online in Zoom, you can also electronically raise your hand as well. Okay. Anybody would like to read this? Yeah? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, this one, I think it's like a page and a half, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's about a page and a half. I'll just scroll for you so you'll be able to see it.
6 aspects of karma to be understood. Monks, when it was said karma should be understood, the creation of karma should be understood. The diversity of karma should be understood. The result of karma should be understood. The elimination of the creation of karma should be understood. The way leading to the elimination of unwholesome karma should be understood. For what reason was it said? 1. It is volition, choices, decisions, monks that I call karma. For having willed intentional choices, decisions, one acts by body, speech, or mind. 2. And what is the creation of karma? Contact is its creation. 3. And what is the diversity of karma? There is karma to be experienced in hell. There is karma to be experienced in the animal realm. There is karma to be experienced in the realm of afflicted spirits. There's karma to be experienced in the human realm, and there's karma to be experienced in the heavenly realm. This is called the diversity of karma. 4. And what is the result of karma? The result of karma, I say, is threefold: to be experienced in this very life, or in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. This is called the result of karma. 5. And what, monks, is the elimination of the creation of karma? With the elimination of contact, there is elimination of the creation of karma. 6. This noble eightfold path is the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome karma, namely, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. When monks, a noble disciple, thus understands karma, the creation of karma, the diversity of karma, the result of karma, the elimination of creation of karma, and the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome karma, he understands this penetrative spiritual life to be the elimination of unwholesome karma. When it was said, karma should be understood, the creation of karma should be understood, the diversity of karma should be understood, the result of karma should be understood, the elimination of the creation of karma should be understood, the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome karma should be understood. it is because of this that this was said.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to walk you guys through this to help you guys to understand how to integrate this into your life and how to make wise decisions based on what it is that the Buddha is sharing with you. So he's talking about these 6 aspects of Kamma to be understood, to be able to help you understand this natural law. The first one, he's talking about volition here. What he's talking about is you need to have intention behind your decisions in order for you to actually experience Kamma. There needs to be intention, because what the Buddha is doing is he's helping you to eliminate these pollutions that are in the mind. And when we talk about the pollutions at a high level, we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. But there's a deeper level of detail called the 10 fetters that I teach in all the various programs that I share. So the Buddha is helping you through all of his teachings to be able to uproot these pollutions, because when you have these pollutions, you'll make unwise decisions. So for example, if someone had a deep craving and anger in this ignorance or unknowing of true reality, maybe they'll go out and kill another being. They might kill a human being. And now when they do that, it's cause and effect that there's going to be unwholesome Kamma, or unwholesome results, because it's unwise to kill another living being. And now if you have the intention to kill, there's a certain amount of craving, anger, or ignorance in your mind. And when you put that out and you actually kill this being, now what's going to come back to you is going to be harm, right? You can get beat up, you can get murdered, you can go to jail, any number of things. You can have guilt and shame and fear within your own mind. This is the cause and effect. It's not punishments and rewards. There's no being who's overseeing this natural law to determine who gets what. It's just a sequence of events of one thing leads to another. And if there's intention behind a killing, that means there's extensive amounts of craving, anger, and ignorance in order to be able to get to the point where you can kill another human being, for example, or even an animal or something of that nature. But if you don't have intention, like let's just say you're walking down the street or you're walking on the sidewalk, and as you're walking down the sidewalk, you're just walking and you're talking to your friends, and now like say a cockroach runs underneath your foot and you squash it and you kill it. Right? There was no intention there. You didn't have any craving, anger, and ignorance. That's not why that killing occurred, because you didn't have intention. So there's not going to be any unwholesome Kamma there. Where this other situation where you actively go out and you're actively trying to kill other beings, there's going to be unwholesome Kamma because you're functioning through craving, anger, and ignorance. So there has to be intention behind any particular decision in order for there to be Kamma created. Here, the Buddha is saying the creation of Kamma is based in contact. What he means by that is that there needs to be contact between beings in order for there to be Kamma, or contact with a material object, for example. You can't create Kamma if there's no contact. There has to be contact between you and other beings, or you and material possessions, in order for there to be Kamma created. There needs to be physical contact. Then he talks about this diversity of Kamma. What he's talking about here is the 5 realms of existence. Remember, I shared with you guys, nothing in the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief, including the 5 realms of existence. The Buddha did teach the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, which are like ghosts, the human realm, and then the heavenly realm. The goal of his teachings is for you to get to enlightenment and never be reborn in any of these realms whatsoever. You can actually independently verify these realms. Right now, you might not have that wisdom of how to verify this, but you can actually get to a point where you verify that these realms actually exist. But nonetheless, what he's sharing here is that when you create Kamma, when you have contact and you create Kamma, that it's going to be experienced in one of these realms. That's what these realms are for, is for you to be able to experience your Kamma. So to be able to get here into the human realm, you would have had to produce a significant amount of wholesome Kamma in your previous lives in order for you to be able to get to this point where you're now in this human existence. Because this is the ideal existence, to be able to actually get to enlightenment from this human existence. So that's what the Buddha is teaching you here, is that this Kamma is going to be experienced in these particular realms. Then what is the result of Kamma? He says, I say it's threefold. It's to be experienced in this very life, in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. Again, the Buddha taught this cycle of rebirth. It's not anything to believe in. this can actually independently be verified, which you may not have the understanding of how to do that right now, but you can get to that point if you like. But essentially what he's teaching you here is you can't run and hide from your Kamma. Whatever decisions you make, either wisely or unwisely, you are going to experience the results of those decisions. So this is where you realize, maybe it's pretty wise for me to actually learn about this natural law of Kamma. If I can't run and hide from the things that I'm experiencing and what I'm doing, then I better learn as much as I can about this so that I can experience an improved life. And now this is where this next one comes in, that the elimination of the creation of Kamma is to eliminate contact. If you need contact in order to be able to produce Kamma, that means if you eliminate contact, you will eliminate the production of Kamma. So for example, let me show you how to use something like this to really help you. Let's just say you come home one day and you have a roommate or you have a life partner or children, and let's just say somebody starts screaming and yelling at you, right? You just walked in the door. Nothing has happened. You just walked in the door and all of a sudden somebody starts screaming, yelling at you. Why did you leave the stove on? Or why did you leave your clothes in the washing machine? Blah, 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 blah. And they start yelling and hollering at you. Well, there's contact here now. They're making an unwise decision to be bitter and harsh and hostile and be aggressive through their speech. That's an unwise decision for them. If you start being bitter and harsh and hostile right back, now you're making an unwise decision and it's going to produce unwholesome Kamma. But if you understand how unwise it is to be bitter and harsh and hostile with the people around you, that it's just damaging your relationships, and if you understand that it's contact that causes the condition that's producing Kamma, in order to eliminate this Kamma, this unwholesome Kamma that's coming to you, in order to eliminate that, you need to break contact. Instead of just sitting there in the conversation and allowing your mind to be angry and frustrated and start yelling and hollering and start throwing things and slamming doors and all of these other kinds of stuff, instead just walk away. There's no need to sit there and yell and holler and scream at that person, because that person's anger isn't being caused by you and you can't stop them from being angry. If they have anger, you're not going to eliminate anger by sending in more anger. Anger isn't eliminated with more anger. That's not the way that this works. If you understand the natural law of Kamma, when somebody's coming at you with anger and hostility and bitterness, the best thing you can do is walk away. Right? Because now you're protecting your mind, that you can now protect the mind and you can walk away and you can choose not to experience whatever it is that this person's doing. So you can stop the production of Kamma by eliminating contact, by just choosing to walk away. If your mind is angry and frustrated, it's not going to solve it by just choosing to walk away. But that is a first step that you need to take, is step away and train your mind to let go. That's another teaching that you can learn as part of the Four Noble Truths. But here, when you're understanding that the elimination of contact eliminates the creation of Kamma, then the last thing you're interested in doing is staying in that conversation and yelling and hollering and screaming right back, because that's just going to produce more unwholesome Kamma for you. And then the Buddha teaches you down here, the Eightfold Path is the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to be teaching this on Tuesday morning as part of our course, where this is what's going to help you to eliminate 100% of all your unwholesome Kamma. Because right now, if you lack wisdom of this natural law, there's certain decisions that you're making that are unwise. And when you put out those unwise decisions, they're going to come back to you. And then what people think is it's good luck, bad luck, destiny or fate or God or some entity called the universe, or they'll blame what they're experiencing on other people. But what the Buddha brings your mind to be able to understand is that it's your decisions that are leading to any particular result. And then he's giving you the guidance in this teaching that's helping you to understand how to extinguish all your unwholesome Kamma, so that when your unwholesome Kamma is coming back to you, you can now learn how to extinguish it, like bury it in the sand. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to help you to be able to do that. So you need to learn this teaching, which takes me about 2.5 hours to actually teach it. Here, the Buddha is just giving you an outline for it, but in his original words, he actually explains exactly what this teaching is. And now you can gradually learn this, implement it in your life, and see transformation in the way that your mind functions, and see a transformation in your relationships. Oftentimes when people are struggling and having difficulties in relationships, they think the way to solve that is to change the other person. You will never get to peace and joy by trying to change other people, because not everybody's going to do things your way. You can convince 8 billion people in the world to do things your way, but you can train your mind to interact in these relationships differently. And that's what the Eightfold Path does for you. So you're going to need to be able to learn this in order to be able to transform your mind. It's basically like a blueprint of how to get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, and you're in that permanent mental state where the mind is always peaceful, bright, cheerful, glad, radiant, and uplifted at all times. So the Buddha here, he just kind of summarizes. He kind of has this way of teaching where at the beginning of a teaching, he will say, this is what I'm going to teach you. Then he will teach it to you. Then at the end of his teachings, he will say, this is what I taught you, right? Even today, there's actually business seminars that will tell you this is a great way to actually present information. You tell people what you're going to tell them, you tell it to them, and then you tell them what you told them. And this helps people to be able to remember what it is that you taught them. So the Buddha was doing this 2,500 years ago, where he would say, this is what I'm going to teach you. And then he'll teach it to you. And then he'll say, this is what I taught you. Right? So this is the structure of the way that you'll see him actually teaching in a lot of his teachings. So do you guys have any questions on this? Anything you guys would like to ask about this chapter? Remember, you guys have the mics here. And then those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom. Or you can raise your hand in Zoom if you like. All right, looks like we have some questions coming in on Zoom. So let me answer these. Looks like Clover is saying, hi, David. Thank you for this. I have there's another question above that. Clover, hi, Teacher David. Is Kamma part of the impermanent world? Everything in the world around you, all the material objects, yes, it's impermanent. And Kamma is impermanent as well because it's not permanent. Your Kamma, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, it's going to come to you and then you experience it. And then depending on what decisions you make, you will then experience things beyond that. So your Kamma is impermanent. And what you would ultimately like to do is, as you're experiencing unwholesome Kamma, is eliminate that and extinguish it. Sometimes we do wholesome things, but the result might turn out to be different due to impermanence. How does Kamma and impermanence work together? So if you understand the root cause of all wholesome Kamma, and you understand the root cause of all unwholesome Kamma, you will see this natural law functions exactly like that. That right now, if you don't fully understand the natural law of Kamma, you might see something in the world and you might think that that is wholesome, and then you'll see that it produces unwholesome results, and you'll think, this isn't working. This isn't the natural law. But it's just because your lack of wisdom of fully understanding this natural law. The root cause of all wholesome Kamma is generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. When you make decisions through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, this is going to actually produce wholesome Kamma, or wholesome results. When you make decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, this is actually going to produce unwholesome Kamma, or unwholesome results. You can't see somebody else's Kamma 100% because you don't know 100% of the decisions that they're making, and you don't know what's in their mind when they're making those decisions. But you can ultimately get to a point where you see your Kamma 100%. And that's what you would really like to focus on. It helps you to be able to look at some of the things in the world that's happening, to be able to see how true this natural law of Kamma is. But just understand you won't be able to see other people's Kamma with 100%. Because some people tell me, or they ask me, they say, why do bad things happen to good people, right? Well, this is because you're not seeing 100% of the decisions that that person's making. When you're with that person, you might consider them to be wholesome or quote unquote good, but you don't see 100% of all the decisions that they're making. So you're not seeing the unwholesome decisions, the unwise decisions they're making that are leading to these unwholesome results. So this natural law of Kamma functions perfectly. There's no being who's overseeing it. There's nobody who turns it on or turns it off. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not about blame or fault. It's just like the natural law of Kamma. It functions all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. Nobody turns it on or turns it off. It's a sequence of events, which is this natural law of Kamma. So the universal truth of impermanence, Clover, is a universal truth. You can see that things are constantly changing, and that is a cause and effect. You can see that because things arise, they will change, and then they will fade away. That is part of the natural law of Kamma. So when we talk about the natural laws of existence that the Buddha taught, the natural law of Kamma is like the umbrella. And then there's other natural laws that are underneath of this umbrella. So this is the way you can think about that. And here's some questions from Chris. He says, "Hi, David. Thank you for this. I had two different questions. One, with respect to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma, why is the word unwholesome in parentheses?" The reason why this word unwholesome is in parentheses is because I've added this word in. This is a way of representing the teachings of the Buddha to be able to help people see the teachings more clearly. Because the Buddha will sometimes just use the word Kamma because he already understands that people will understand whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. He would just use the word Kamma. He won't always preface it with unwholesome or wholesome. So I prefaced it here with unwholesome so that people would know with 100% certainty. And you'll see that all throughout the book series that I put words like this in parentheses. And this is kind of a widely accepted way of helping people to be able to understand things like this. And then Chris goes on, he says, why is the word, did the original text mean the elimination of Kamma altogether? By the time you get to enlightenment, you're still experiencing Kamma, right? You're just experiencing exclusively wholesome Kamma. You'll see that in other words of the Buddha, where he actually specifically uses this language. In this particular discourse, he doesn't use the word unwholesome or wholesome in this particular context. So that's why I inserted the word unwholesome. But in other teachings, you'll see that he does use it that way. So this is what I've done to be able to help students to be able to understand it. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you will have eliminated all your unwholesome Kamma, but you will still be experiencing Kamma. You'll be experiencing exclusively wholesome Kamma at that point. And then second, what wisdom is needed to independently verify the existence of the heavenly, hell, and afflicted spirit realm? So the way that you independently verify this is through having contact with beings from these realms, because these realms are formless realms. The hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the heavenly realm. These are beings that exist and they don't have physical form, where human beings and animals, they have physical form. But if you have contact with beings that are in these other realms, meaning you can either see them, because some people can actually see these beings, or you actually hear them and have communication with them, you'll know that these realms actually exist. And you'll see different numbers of realms that people will teach. They will say the Buddha taught 6 realms or 9 realms or 32 realms or any number of different realms. But you can see in the Pali Canon that he only taught 5 realms, and you'll be able to independently verify these. And you don't necessarily go out searching for this, but as you go through life, you might actually experience seeing a ghost, or you might have interaction with the heavenly being, or you might actually have interaction with the hell being. And this is why the Buddha taught these things, because this is the way that the world works. This is the way the world functions. And if you had these kinds of situations where you saw these beings, or you had communication with these beings and you didn't understand this is the way the world works, it could really shake you up. For example, when people see a ghost, they usually get very scared. They get very fearful, right? Well, if you understand that this is normal, that this is just a being who's in the afflicted spirit realm, and because you're not causing harm to it, it's not going to cause harm to you, then you don't have to be fearful of this being. But because of the craving for permanence, where the mind craves to only see physical beings like animals and humans, when you experience this impermanence of seeing a being that doesn't have physical form, people get shaken up and they get fearful. I've seen ghosts before. I wasn't afraid. I was just like, okay, there's a ghost. Even my son, one time, he came home about a year or so ago, and he came and sat next to me on the sofa, and he said, "Dad, I need to ask you a question." I said, "Okay, sure." He's like, "It's about the teachings of the Buddha." I said, okay, what happened? What's going on? He said, well, I was on the back of mommy's motorbike, and when we were coming home from the mall, there was this person in these red clothes that was standing in the middle of the street, and mommy drove her motorbike right through this person. Was that the afflicted spirit realm that the Buddha talks about? And I said, yeah, it sure was. He said, okay, thank you. I was just curious. And then he just went away. Right. And he didn't have nightmares that night. He didn't have difficulties falling asleep. He wasn't scared. He just understood this is the way the world is, that sometimes you're going to see beings that have physical form, like human beings and animals. And sometimes you're going to see beings that don't have physical form. And those beings are beings in the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, and the heavenly realm. So this is the way to independently verify those realms exist, is to either see them if you end up experiencing that, or some human beings can actually hear these beings in the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, or the heavenly realm. In their mind, they can hear the actual voices. So that's how you can verify that, Chris. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So let's go to this next chapter, chapter 2 in this book. By the way, what you have here is you have the words of the Buddha. Then you have a reference here. This takes you back to the original source in the Pali Canon, so you can see where this came from, because typically the Buddha has these very long discourses, and what this book series does is it kind of chops it up into smaller, more manageable pieces that you can actually understand and glean some insight from. So this will take you back so you can see what the Buddha was talking about before this or after this, and you can confirm that this is indeed from the original teachings of the Buddha. And then you've got words from me that are helping you to be able to integrate this into your day-to-day life, because it's helpful to have a guide and a teacher. You're doing the work as an independent practitioner, but you're going to need teachers and guides to be able to help you and kind of point the way towards enlightenment. But then you don't believe those people. You learn, examine, and you investigate the teachings. You reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false. And then you practice the teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to be able to make decisions through that wisdom that you're cultivating. So these are words for me to be able to help you how to integrate this into your day-to-day life. Okay, so this is chapter 2. Here's the 3 causes of the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Would someone like to read this? Sure. Mhm.
3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Monks, there are these 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. What 3? Craving, desire, greed, attachment is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Anger, hatred, ill will is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Ignorance, delusion, unknowing of true reality is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Suppose, monks, seeds that are intact, unspoiled, not damaged by wind and the sun's heat, fertile, well preserved, well deposited in well prepared ground in a good field and receive proper rainfall. In this way, those seeds would grow, increase, and mature. So too, any unwholesome Kamma, monks, created through craving, born of craving, caused by craving, originated by craving, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its result, either in this very life or in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. So too, any unwholesome Kamma created through anger, born of anger, caused by anger, originated by anger, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its result, either in this very life or in the next rebirth or on some subsequent occasion. So too, any unwholesome Kamma created through ignorance, born of ignorance, caused by ignorance, originated by ignorance, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its result, either in this very life or in the next rebirth or on some subsequent occasion. These are the three causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So these are referred to as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. This is what's producing all the unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. That when you make decisions through these three poisons, it's going to produce unwholesome Kamma. So I'll give you guys kind of an overview of what these are. What craving, desire, attachment is. This is the wants and expectations. This is the unquenchable thirst that the mind has in the unenlightened state, where the mind is longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection. Thinking something external is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it. It's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind just thinks, if I can just get that thing, everything's going to be perfect. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it. The craving isn't the object itself. It's the way that the mind longs and yearns for it. So for example, if you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you're like, oh, brand new pair of shoes. I can't wait to get those on my feet. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so awesome. Let me get those shoes. And now you're so excited and so happy. And you go into the store and you say, yes, I get size 7 or 6 or 8 or whatever it is. And then they go to the back and they come out and they say, sorry, we don't have your size. And now you're angry. Now you're frustrated. Now you're agitated because your mind's not getting what it wants and what it expects. That's what the craving, desire, attachment is, that the mind can only be happy and experience pleasant feelings if you get what you want and what you expect. The mind's craving permanence, but you live in an impermanent world. Or maybe you might think, I don't feel good here. What do I need to feel better? Oh, more money. That'll fix everything. Let me get more money. So now the mind might chase after money. And if you get your money, you'll be really happy and excited. But eventually that'll wear away. But if you don't get your money, you'll be angry and frustrated, right? And you're like, what do I need to feel better here? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get a new boyfriend or girlfriend. And now you'll chase after that for a while. And you'll be really happy when you get your new boyfriend or girlfriend. But after time, that wears away and you're angry and frustrated and sad. You're right back into the same problem that you started out with. And then the mind's like, what do I need to feel better here? I know what I'll do. I'll go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand. They have mango and sticky rice. They have massages. They have elephants. I can go to Thailand. Everything's going to be wonderful when I go there. And now you go to Thailand. You have a really great time. You're really excited. But then you got to go back home. And now you're angry and frustrated and not feeling good to go back home, right? So the mind, it chases after things, thinking that this next new thing is going to provide lasting satisfaction. And if it gets what it wants, it gets happy and excited. It gets pleasant feelings. But those are conditional. Those pleasant feelings arise, they change, and they fade away. And if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings, like anger, sadness, and frustration. So whenever you're making decisions through craving, the longing and yearning, it's always going to produce unwholesome results when you're chasing after the objects of your affection. But sometimes when I tell people that they need to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, they think, wouldn't my mind swing all the way to the other side and feel dull and lethargic and complacent? Well, it might, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle, where you can have this enthusiasm, this ambition, this motivation towards accomplishing your goals, objectives, or interests in life. But you're not chasing after these things, thinking that the next new shiny object is going to provide lasting satisfaction. But you're also not on the other side where you're dull and lethargic. You come to the middle where you gradually pursue your goals and objectives. Because if you get your cravings fulfilled, you'll be excited, but it'll only be temporary. It's going to eventually fade away. And if you don't get what you want, you're going to get angry and frustrated there too. So when your cravings aren't getting fulfilled, you'll have this anger that will arise. And when this anger is arising, the mind firmly believes that it's other people who are causing you to be angry. So what the mind will do is it'll tend to become unskillful. You'll tend to push people away, or you'll push a situation away. This is called aversion. You might have experienced this before where you've pushed people out of your life, but you can see that that doesn't solve the problem because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get irritated or annoyed. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand that it's your own craving that's causing this anger is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. And you can see that produces unwholesome karma too, because now you end up damaging your relationship. And maybe this person chooses to go away from you and they never actually come back to spend time with you. Or maybe you've gotten so angry that you've lost a job before. That's your unwholesome karma because you're functioning through this anger. Or the third thing that someone will do when this anger is arising and they think it's something external that's causing it is they'll tend to put their expectations on people and try to pressure them into doing things your way because the mind wants people to do it your way. The mind's ego thinks that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. And the mind has this certain way of doing things. This is the craving that the mind has, this permanent way that the mind wants everything to be done. And if somebody doesn't do things your way, what you'll tend to do is you'll push them out of your little bubble, right? Or you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to them, trying to fear them into doing it your way. Or you'll put expectations on them and try to pressure them to do it your way. This is the mind trying to get permanence, where you live in an impermanent world. Not everyone's going to do it your way. So when you function through this anger, you're going to be pushing people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or put your expectations on them. And it's going to produce unwholesome results because people are going to choose to go away from you. And you can't live harmoniously with all beings because it's only a matter of time. If you spend time with somebody, that you're going to see that they do things differently than you. And that's okay. It's okay. It's just impermanence. That's all it is. That some people do things this way and some people do things that way. And that's normal, right? There's not just one right way to do things in the world, but the mind's ego in the unenlightened state will think my way is the right way and everyone else's way is the wrong way. And now the mind wants everybody to do it my way. So when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you can only be happy when you get what you want. And when you're not getting what you want, this anger comes up. Now you damage your relationships. And all of this is producing unwholesome karma for you or unwholesome results. And where all of that's coming from, the craving and anger, is this third one. People usually refer to it as ignorance. I refer to it as the unknowing of true reality or the lack of wisdom or confusion or misunderstanding, because the Buddha wouldn't have used this word ignorance because that's like a derogatory word. Remember, we're translating from Pali to English, and an enlightened being doesn't refer to someone in a diminishing and degrading way. You know, sometimes people think the Buddha might have called people stupid or foolish or something like that. No, an enlightened being doesn't talk about people in that way. So a better way to think of this third poison or this third unwholesome root is the unknowing of true reality, misunderstanding, misperception, confusion. That's what the mind has in the unenlightened state, is it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. One of the things that the mind doesn't understand in the unenlightened state is that it's causing its own anger. It firmly believes that it's other people that are causing its anger. You guys might think that here, sitting here today, if you haven't penetrated into the Four Noble Truths to be able to independently verify it, you don't understand yet that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings based in craving. That's what's actually causing all these feelings that you're experiencing, whether it's stress and anxiety, or whether it's anger and frustration, or guilt or shame or embarrassment or disappointment. All of this is coming from craving. But because of the mind's ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. And because it lacks wisdom, the mind will continue to make decisions through that ignorance, and it'll keep experiencing difficulties and struggles over and over and over and over and over again. This is why you might keep seeing the same things repeating in your life over and over and over again. So while we call this craving, anger, and ignorance, it's actually because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, for this misunderstanding that the mind has, then you would have already eliminated your craving and anger. But because there's this misunderstanding in the mind, this lack of wisdom, then craving and anger continues to exist in your mind. So whenever you make decisions through craving, anger, or ignorance, it's going to produce unwholesome karma. You can look at any situation on a personal level or even a global level. You can look at global politics and how one country interacts with another country. Whenever there's anything unwholesome going on, it's coming from decisions that were made through craving, anger, and ignorance. And if you bring this down to your own life, then you understand what the ultimate goal is here, is to uproot this and eliminate this out of the mind. And that's what the Buddha does, is he gives you the tools of how to eliminate this out of the mind. Because all of these have antidotes. The opposite of craving, you're going to see it down, if we're probably not going to have time to study it today, but there's another discourse where the Buddha teaches the opposite of craving is generosity, because craving is where you're holding on to things, craving for them to be permanent. But when you practice generosity, when you're giving and sharing with the people around you, you're living open-handedly and you're joyful and sharing with others, this is going to help train your mind to let go. And this is going to produce wholesome results for you. It's going to enhance the quality of your mind. So while craving produces unwholesome karma, generosity produces wholesome karma or wholesome results. Where anger produces unwholesome karma because of the bitterness and harshness and hostility, the opposite of that is loving kindness, a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards others. Right? So this is what you would like to practice, because that's going to produce wholesome karma for you. And then the opposite of this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality is to practice wisdom, basing your decisions in wisdom. And when you're practicing wisdom, now it's going to produce wholesome karma or wholesome results. So that's why in the teachings of the Buddha, there's no such thing as belief. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. But in order to get to wisdom, you need to know the truth. So that's why you can't believe anything. You need to learn, investigate, and examine his teachings. You need to reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false. And then you need to practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And this is what's going to produce the wholesome karma or the wholesome results, because now you're making decisions through wisdom. Instead of being bitter and harsh and hostile to people, you'll be loving and kind and warm and gentle. And now you're going to see that it produces wholesome results for you. But you're going to need to learn how to do that. And that's where the Eightfold Path comes in. So this is a discourse that helps you to be able to see how craving, anger, and ignorance is producing unwholesome karma, right? So Chris, if you go down here in the book, since you'd asked this question, if you go down here in the book, you ultimately get to the point where it talks about wholesome karma. And now you can see here that generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom is producing the wholesome karma. And you can see the Buddha is not using the word wholesome here either, because he just knows that people would know that as part of studying with him. But for me, I inserted it here where the Buddha is literally saying non-craving is the cause or the origin of karma. But up here, he's also saying the same thing, which is where he's saying craving is the cause and origination of karma, right? So he's not using wholesome or unwholesome here in these two discourses. But if you understand it, then you can understand with this word being inserted. All right. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter where the Buddha is helping you to be able to see what produces unwholesome karma? No questions? Okay. So what I normally do in this particular version here at the temple is I just teach up until about 10:30. And then when I teach in the evening, I teach at 9 p.m. I teach it from home. There's students that have been learning with me for an extended period of time. They tend to collect in that class, and we actually study 10 chapters in a particular day because we don't have to cover a lot of the basic stuff because they already understand that. But in this particular class, we usually just study however many we study, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes three. So I'll just end, by the way, I normally end classes by just thanking you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's opportunity, guys, for you guys to do that. Like I was mentioning this afternoon at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., there's an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha. That's a great place for people to get started. And then tomorrow, there's the group learning program at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple. And then we also have a meditation tomorrow night at 6:30 in the evening. You can actually attend that if you'd like. We're going to be doing loving kindness meditation, which is actually a meditation to eliminate this anger. The meditation we did this morning is actually to eliminate craving, but there's a meditation to eliminate the anger, where you get to a point where you can just be loving and kind with everybody around you. And then all next week, we have a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course. You'll find these details and others on our bulletin board, as well as our website. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee-khap. Sawadee-khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.